Michael Jackson may be the biggest celebrity in the world, thanks to his trials and very public tribulations.
I haven't had what you'd call an ordinary life.
While his enormous talent might have made him a star,
This is really amazing.
it's his shocking behaviour that takes centre stage.
Nobody thought this would last.
Michael is known for trying to create bizarre scenarios around himself. It has extended his legend.
I want to do something that's totally different and unusual.
Get ready for all the weird reasons we just can't get enough of Michael. From his nose for news,
Dr. Nelson, I'm telling you, you have to fly out here right now. My nose came off again.
to dangling his baby boy over the edge of a balcony.
It was like Fear Factor for infants.
Just when we think we've seen it all, Michael does it again.
What does Michael do? Comes to court in his pajamas.
So grab your pet chimp and get in that hyperbaric chamber. It's time for a whole program of stories that you just couldn't make up.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
This is All Access, Michael Jackson's Most Shocking.
I love you. Goodbye.
Michael Jackson was on top of the pop world in 1984. In January, he scored a record 9 American Music Award nominations. On the big awards night, he arrived with Brooke Shields as his date. But what shocked everyone was their little chaperone, Emmanuel Lewis.
If ever there's a way to make an entrance, bring a model and bring Webster, and you will not be forgotten.
You talking about Michael Jackson. Everywhere he went was hysteria.
Michael later admitted he wasn't all that comfortable being alone with Brooke.
It was like Emmanuel Lewis was there to prevent Michael from getting between Brooke and her Calvins.
Michael's 2 dates sat together while he won 8 American Music Awards.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Surprisingly, after that night, Michael seemed to prefer Emmanuel's company, despite their almost 13-year age difference.
We had so many different similar situations. Him growing up, you know, in the spotlight, myself, those were real for us.
It kind of reminds me of Mini-Me. He was like the first Mini-Me.
Emmanuel became more like Mini Mike as their odd friendship grew. And the two are still close to this day.
It's like they have a little best friend necklace, and Emmanuel has half of it and Michael has the other half.
He's like another brother to me, you know, then and now.
Michael was on a roll. He won a record-breaking $15 million ad campaign with Pepsi. He would be the pop star to make their drink the choice of a new generation. The concept was brilliant, at least until it all went up in flames. The on-stage fireworks set Michael's famous hair ablaze.
Soul Glow plus pyrotechnics equals flame on.
I just remember like, oh my God, he got his hair caught on fire.
He managed to do 2 complete Michael Jackson spins while his dome was lit up.
He twirled the fire out. Stop, drop, and spin. Michael is such a great dancer. He twirled out the fire.
Throughout the whole ordeal, Michael never forgot his fans, even on the stretcher from the ambulance.
I do remember him being carted off, and he was really hurt, but he stuck up his one gloved hand, and he let us all know that he was doing all right.
In the end, Michael's pain was Pepsi's gain, getting the kind of publicity money just can't buy.
You know, a good commercial just sticks in your head. Michael Jackson was on fire. What was that soda? Pepsi. I gotta drink it.
Michael didn't start the fire, but he sure kept it burning. In 1985, he adopted a new best friend. Here's the surprising part. This little chap wasn't human.
Everybody wave to Bubbles.
He was a chimpanzee named Bubbles.
Most people, their best friend is someone they grew up with, maybe a family member, but Michael Jackson's is a chimp.
Being Jacko's sidekick had its privileges, Bubbles reportedly sported at least 20 designer outfits and had his own bodyguard. Michael even booked separate hotel rooms for his furry friend.
Was like human to him. It was with him in pictures. It was just a little beyond a pet.
The monkey was the only one who wasn't caught up in the fact that he was the biggest pop star in the world. He'd be like, I just sold 80 million copies of Thriller. And the monkey's like, banana, banana.
Like most chimp stars, Bubbles outgrew his outfits and bubbly disposition.
Bubbles the monkey was removed from the ranch because after reaching maturity, chimpanzees can be very dangerous.
Teenagers aren't allowed at the Neverland Ranch, so it doesn't surprise me the chimp had to go too.
So where do all the grown-up chimps go?
I'd like to think that Bubbles is in that chimpanzee retirement home down in Florida, but I'm not sure.
Actually, he was sent to an animal sanctuary in California.
I think where Bubbles is now, it's probably less of a circus with other chimpanzees. Go figure.
Bye. Say hi.
In 1985, Michael had cash to burn and a few bridges. Jacko shocked the music world by buying the Beatles catalogue. He reportedly spent $47.5 million to win a bidding war against the powerful Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono.
Here's how much money Michael Jackson has. He outbid a Beatle for the Beatles catalog.
Before that, Paul McCartney had been Michael's mentor and collaborator on the songs Say, Say, Say and The Girl Is Mine. He'd even advised Michael to invest in something they both loved, music.
Michael Jackson took that advice to heart, and when the Beatles catalog went up for sale, he pounced on it.
And then bought all of Paul McCartney's work.
Paul McCartney, I think he was heartbroken. How could you do this to me? I kind of was teaching you the business ropes. That just put a wedge right between them.
A wedge that grew in 1988 when Michael licensed the song Revolution to Nike for a cool $250,000.
With the Beatles, we didn't do commercials. That was like a thing we didn't do. So that the songs like Revolution didn't mean a pair of sneakers. It meant revolution. I think it's wrong of him to do it. Sorry, Mike.
The Just Do It company just didn't run the ad after the remaining Beatles sued for $15 million. But Michael's credibility was already severely damaged.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
For you to do that with the Beatles is just a real slap in the face of a lot of American rock and roll lovers.
Michael didn't lose any sleep over his Beatles betrayal, and there are pictures to prove it. On September the 19th, 1986, the National Enquirer ran shocking photos of him in a hyperbaric chamber.
Michael Jackson supposedly sleeps in this hyperbaric chamber that provides oxygen for him, and it's going to allow him to live till he's 150 years old.
I thought that it was like one of those cryogenics chambers in 2001, and so in my head it was like Michael Jackson was clearly already going to outer space.
It got to the point where people really believed that Mike was from another planet.
Here on Earth, the truth really was stranger than fiction. Or was it? Michael said the story was made up by the tabloids. But the National Enquirer claims Jackson created a story, staged the photos, and told them to put the word bizarre in the headline.
It makes sense that he would do this because he likes attention.
He thought that by him leaking the story, people would be like, Michael Jackson's so weird and creepy. Little did he know that in the next few years, he wouldn't have to leak any stories, and that we'd all be saying, damn, he's creepy.
Michael Jackson kicked 1987 off with a new album called Bad. It was brilliant, but fans were shocked to see a very different Michael on the cover.
Michael was born with African-American skin, a black guy. But then the cover of Bad came out, and you were just like, who is he? Is that just makeup? Is that stage makeup? What is that?
He wasn't black and he wasn't white. He was just this kind of pasty shade of mushroom gray.
Michael eventually claimed his lighter skin was caused by the rare disease vitiligo.
I hate to say it, I have vitiligo, and I'm completely allergic to the sun. I'm not even supposed to be outside, actually. Even if I'm in the shade, the sun rays can destroy my skin.
Give me a break. You're so evenly diseased.
The skin disease didn't explain the other changes to his face, and neither did he.
The nose is a little pointier and the chin sticks out a little more, and we're just wondering, where did this come from? Because he had certainly hit puberty many years before.
Michael will admit to only having had 2 nose jobs, and it wasn't for vanity, it was for deviated septum. He says he's had no other plastic surgery. I mean, how could it be?
If you look at a picture of him at 10 and at 35, you wouldn't even suspect that they're the same person. You know, it's so drastic, the changes, that it just leaves you flabbergasted.
His extreme makeover was disturbing even by Hollywood standards.
His plastic surgery didn't make him look prettier, it made him look freakier.
I believe in perfection, and I try to create that in everything we do.
Michael's next shocker involved a man whose physical appearance was also pretty unusual, the Elephant Man. In 1987, Jackson reportedly tried to buy the skeletal remains.
Michael Jackson wanted to buy the bones of the Elephant Man.
It's the Elephant Man, that's me.
John Merrick lived in the 19th century, and basically an entire one half of his body was severely disfigured.
The Elephant Man movie inspired Jackson to view John Merrick's bones at the London hospital. Things got really bizarre when he allegedly offered $1 million to take the remains home.
Most people have collections that are pretty simple things, you know, stamps, coins. Michael Jackson, he has to go collect bones of another human being. At that point in time, people really started to think Michael Jackson was pretty eccentric.
Please forgive me if I act a little strange.
Why would you want to possess the remains of the sort of most well-known freak on planet Earth?
Michael Jackson thought there was a special bond between the two of them.
Jackson later claimed the story was another bizarre tabloid fabrication.
Don't read the tabloids. Don't read stories that aren't true. They write these stories to mislead you.
I think he's addicted to publicity, and he was just like, well, this is something completely moronic and freakish that the public will just love to talk about by the water cooler.
In 1988, Michael became more focused on his own mortality. The 29-year-old star longed to live in a place where children never grow up and never grow old. So he spent a shocking $28 million for a place to build his very own Neverland.
Neverland Ranch has a roller coaster and a Ferris wheel and bumper cars and wild animals running around.
There's a candy store, there's a pirate ship, there's a train. For all I know, there's a freaking unicorn farm.
The world ends and he needs to stock his own Noah's Ark. He's got the llamas and the giraffes and the monkeys and goats and crazy animals.
It reportedly costs more than $2 million a month to maintain the 2,700-acre playground. And kids turned up in busloads to spend time with their superstar friend who refused to grow up.
I am Peter Pan. I'm Peter Pan by heart.
Michael believes in the myth, the story of Peter Pan.
He actually has statues of Peter Pan around his property. And he said, you know, that in his heart, he really is Peter Pan.
It's always been said that Michael Jackson longs for his childhood.
Who wouldn't want to live at Disneyland? Your very own Disneyland that you designed yourself? How awesome. It's only when you look back at it under the veil of adulthood that you're like, that's freaky.
Although private, Neverland was still under California's jurisdiction. In August 1993, the LA police began investigating shocking allegations that Michael Jackson had sexually molested a young boy.
Mr. Jackson, do you have anything to say about the allegations?
We are conducting a criminal investigation at this point. We've been in contact with the LA County District Attorney's Office.
I think Michael Jackson had always seemed so asexual. I just never got a vibe of any sort of sexuality whatsoever, and it was like, there's no way he's molesting children.
I wanted to believe him the first time because it was like, he's the king of pop.
Michael Jackson from Jackson 5 molesting children? You don't want to believe it.
The ongoing investigation and constant media attention generated some damaging rumours. So Michael went on TV to profess his innocence and up the shock factor.
Michael Jackson decided that he needed to defend himself, so he initiated broadcasts from Neverland, pleading his case almost to the public.
Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted.
Hearing Michael Jackson say the word penis,
that
was the end of innocence. You know, like I grew up that day, the day that Michael Jackson used that word on TV.
Penis.
Shocking.
After a collective shudder, the world moved on. And so did Michael. He settled out of court with the boy's family for a reported $25 million.
We wish to jointly announce a mutual resolution of this lawsuit.
To see a major pop star completely settle with several $1 million, you kind of have to wonder, well, why not just fight this?
We got together again with my advisors, and they advised me, it was hands down a unanimous decision, resolve the case.
I think it put an even bigger doubt in everyone's mind, you know. If you're innocent, you don't have to pay anything.
While the ordeal was over, the impact wasn't. Michael's tour was cancelled, Pepsi dropped his multi-million-dollar contract, and no one would ever look at him the same way again.
So much for my happy ending.
That kind of allegation sticks with you, guilty or innocent. That's a stain that is very, very hard to erase.
As Michael Jackson's troubles mounted, he got by with a little help from two friends, Demerol and morphine. In November 1993, he went into rehab.
As you may already know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication.
Lots of celebrities go into rehab, but to see Michael Jackson do it became more shocking.
You just didn't really think that he was the kind of guy who was popping goofballs all day.
Michael grew dependent on painkillers after he was burnt in 1984's Pepsi commercial. When the problem escalated, his doctor contacted Michael's old friend Elizabeth Taylor and asked for her help.
When Michael's doctor called to ask if I could help, I was glad to intervene.
Now, when Elizabeth Taylor tells you you have a problem, you have a problem.
I think Michael was so far gone at this point that it took someone like Elizabeth Taylor, his absolute goddess, to say, you're gonna die if you don't get treatment.
Around this time, Michael Jackson was going through a lot of traumatic things.
It could very well be that the drugs are what he sought to help him find peace.
It just goes to show you that even though he's a big superstar, he can't handle all that. He's not Peter Pan. He can't fly.
After all the craziness, it was time for damage control, Jackson style.
So cute.
The King of Shock distracted the world by getting married in a private ceremony in the Dominican Republic in May 1994.
The goal was to show the world that he's just a regular guy that wants to get married.
Thank you.
Except this regular guy didn't marry just anybody. He married the only daughter of Elvis Presley, Lisa Marie, and sparked a lot of speculation.
Lisa Marie swears they had a relationship. Michael swears they had a relationship. But if you look at the timing, might it just be that Lisa Marie was helping Michael out at a hard time?
It does seem like when public questions about his sexuality arise, he retaliates by very publicly hooking up with someone who is famous and beautiful.
Lisa Marie and Michael quickly launched a massive publicity campaign to prove their one true love.
And just think, nobody thought this would last.
It began with a little public necking.
At the 1994 VMAs, Michael Jackson gives his wife, Lisa Marie Presley, a kiss on national television. No one really bought the kiss.
People were like, yeah, Mike, what the hell? No, ew.
The campaign continued with more shocking displays of public affection. First, the couple undressed in Jackson's new video, You Are Not Alone. Then, 60 million viewers watched Primetime Live to hear the answer to one question. Do they have sex?
Do we have sex?
Yes, yes, yes. Once it had the Diane Sawyer, we have sex talk, that, for me that was just like, all right, you're done. You're done. You guys don't have sex at all. Not with each other.
At the time, Lisa Marie swore the marriage was real.
I'm not going to marry somebody for any reason other than the fact that I fall in love with them. Period.
But her love didn't last long. The rock and roll merger ended after only 20 months.
It was really something that people were just scratching their heads at. No one thought it was going to last, and of course it didn't.
Just 10 months after his divorce, Michael moonwalked down the aisle again in a shocking shotgun wedding. On November the 14th, 1996, Michael married his nurse-turned-pregnant bride, Debbie Rowe.
Debbie Rowe was Michael Jackson's dermatologist's assistant.
Rowe admitted that she and Michael were really just friends in an unconventional marriage.
I think by now people kind of understood that any girl that was with Michael Jackson might not actually be with Michael Jackson, so they kind of looked at Debbie Rowe as maybe a baby factory.
Debbie delivered Prince Michael just 3 months after the wedding, and Paris Catherine in 1998.
She was willing to bear his children, and it seems that's all he may have wanted from her.
Debbie wanted something too, a divorce.
Baby, you know I'm worth it.
You would think that a marriage put together strictly for fertilization purposes would last a lifetime. But I guess not.
In October 2001, the King of Pop tried to stage a monumental $60 million comeback by releasing a new album called Invincible.
That's cool.
This time, he was shocked when it didn't rock anybody's world.
And this is supposed to be the one that puts Mike back on the map. This is the one that he grabs his crown back and says, look at me, bitches, Mike is back.
It was the most expensive record ever made, and it sold 2 million records, which is nothing for him. A guy who sold like upwards of 170 million records in his lifetime. So for him, it was a huge and complete letdown.
To boost sales, Michael stepped in virgin territory, literally. The guy who once sold out arenas resorted to making his first in-store appearance at New York's Virgin Megastore.
It was sad, you know, he's out, he's in Times Square in his blue tracksuit.
He's signing albums and posters like he's this B-list record guy trying to sell 1 million albums if he can.
Michael's in-store promotion didn't boost Invincible's sales, so he hooked up with Reverend Al Sharpton to help him place the blame on Sony.
So Michael Jackson claims that Invincible didn't do well, not because the album sucked, but because Sony was racist.
The problem was Michael Jackson, not the color of his skin.
When you fight for me, you're fighting for all black people.
It's funny because when black people are really struggling, we hit that Al Sharpton 1-800 number and try to get Al in to take it to the next level. But even Al Sharpton couldn't help it this way.
And I think it was the nail in the coffin of Michael Jackson's cool.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Michael decided to follow up this debacle by declaring himself Artist of the Millennium at the 2002 Video Music Awards. He's pulled a lot of ego-based stunts, but this one takes the cake. Or rather, ignores the cake and takes home a made-up award.
The VMAs is known for being just lighthearted and you never know what's gonna happen. So they were like, let's throw a birthday celebration for Michael. And they got this big cake with musical notes on it. He's gonna love it.
Who better to wish him happy birthday than the princess of pop, Britney Spears?
This is someone who has inspired me and just about everybody in this room and the world. I consider him the artist of the millennium.
And out of her whole speech, he heard artist of the millennium.
So happy birthday, my friend, the king of pop.
Michael comes from backstage when he's announced.
He first bumps into the partition,
Thank goodness he was wearing shin guards.
goes up to the microphone.
If someone had told me that one day I would be getting, as a musician, the Artist of the Millennium Award. What? The Artist of the Millennium Award.
He takes it as the Artist of the Millennium Award. And there's a cake for my birthday, too.
You got to see his ego in its rawness.
He broke out a full-page piece of paper of people he wanted to thank.
First, I'd like to thank God, my mother, Diana Ross, David Blaine.
Instead of saying thanks, I don't feel a day over 40, he's there saying, I thank God and everyone for naming me Artist of the Millennium.
God bless you. Thank you.
On November the 13th, 2002, Michael Jackson showed the world another shocking side of himself, the crumbly, falling off side. Fans audibly gasped when he arrived for a court case and exposed his nose.
He arrived in court late with a surgical mask over his face.
The judge, of course, says, could you remove your mask? And he does. And everybody's like, put it back on, because part of his nose is gone.
His nose was headline news. The missing tip of Michael's nose got a lot more attention than the concert promoter suing him for $21 million.
Shamona.
Hey! News wasn't the only media focused on his nose. Even the animated series South Park devoted an entire episode to Jackson and his bizarre beak show.
I got your nose.
That South Park episode was awesome. But the sad part is, I think it could have been a true story.
That's when everyone said there's no going back for this guy.
This shocking Jackson moment is a 2-for-1. First, Michael had a third child named Prince Michael II, aka Blanket. Then he introduced his baby boy to the world by dangling him over the 4th floor balcony of a Berlin hotel room.
And all his fans and photographers are outside waiting to catch a glimpse of him, and they want to see this baby, 9 months old. And what does Michael Jackson do? He comes to the window, takes the baby in one arm, and sort of dangles it.
What really makes me crazy about that is that he's showing the kid and the kid's legs are behind the balcony and he lifts the kid's legs over the balcony.
I thought, oh my God, he could have dropped that baby.
It was like Fear Factor for infants.
The world's response was immediate and venomous.
There was outrage. People were taking it really seriously, and they were questioning his skills as a parent.
At first, Jackson actually defended his actions.
We were waiting for thousands of fans down below, and they were chanting they wanted to see my child. So I was kind enough to let them see.
He eventually recanted with a written press release admitting his mistake. While child endangerment charges were never brought, the videotape remains an indictment he will never escape.
You can do whatever you want to yourself. You put a child's life in danger. Holy shocking.
Babygate was perfect timing for the premiere of Living with Michael Jackson. Just 3 months after the scandal, 27 million viewers watched Martin Bashir's shocking documentary with unprecedented access into Michael's world.
People didn't know what his life was like, what his kids even really looked like. So this was a peek inside.
It is supposed to be a big PR thing to make him look better to the public, and it actually backfired. It got to the part of the interview where they started talking about how Mike opens his house to all the kids. Then it got to the bedroom, and then this is where the special got really crazy.
I have slept in the bed with many children. I sleep in the bed with all of them. When Macaulay Culkin were little, Kieran Culkin would sleep on this side, Macaulay Culkin's on this side, his sister's in there. We're all just jamming the bed.
I think that was the statement that made a lot of people like sit up and take notice.
It wasn't even hearsay. It wasn't even like Michael Jackson's butler was talking about Michael Jackson sleeping with children. Michael Jackson on record was talking about bringing small boys into his bed.
But when you say bed, you're thinking sexual. They make that sexual. It's not sexual. We're going to sleep.
He's almost so convincing in it, you go, right, okay, little boys with it. No, what am I thinking?
The public was shocked, perplexed, and outraged. So Michael did the only thing he could. He fought back at Bashir.
He claimed Bashir only edited in certain things and that he was portrayed in a horrible light.
Michael Jackson made his own documentary, and it was hosted by Maury Povich. Nobody watched.
Only half as many viewers watched Michael Jackson's rebuttal. By that point, the damage was done.
Basically said he did all these things that people were saying he did, but to him there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, yeah, I sleep in bed with children. It's very innocent. It's normal. Excuse me. No.
At the end of the day, Michael Jackson's 20 years of shocking moments all led back to one thing: young boys. And on November the 18th, 2003, police once again raided Neverland to investigate molestation allegations.
12:05 at the Santa Barbara airport. Michael Jackson was taken into custody.
When Michael was arrested and charged, for many fans, it was déjà vu.
We were basically waiting for this to happen. We had known that there were allegations out there.
A few months prior, he went on national television to talk about boys sleeping in his bed.
I'm surprised it took this long. I'm surprised it took over 10 years to come out again.
But this time, it was different. Michael was facing criminal charges, which meant he might even go to prison.
The felony complaint involves 9 counts. 7 counts, commonly known as child molestation, and 2 counts administering an intoxicating liquor to a child for the purpose of committing a felony.
Michael didn't let a few felony charges rain on his parade. He treated his 2004 appearance more like a concert than a court case.
There were swarms of his fans at the courthouse. He actually got on top of a luxury SUV and started giving them a performance.
We know you're the greatest dancer ever, but right now is not the time.
This is not a joke. This isn't a video. This is reality, man. I don't think Mike gets that.
I would like to thank the fans around the world for your love and your support from every corner of the earth.
It really showed that he sort of was loving the attention. He was back in the spotlight, whether it be a negative spotlight or a positive one.
Michael wasn't loving it for long. The spotlight returned to his trial when shocking details were leaked about the case. Soon everyone knew Michael's accuser was a 12-year-old cancer patient who claimed Jackson gave him Jesus juice.
What would Jesus do? Not that stuff, man. That's just weird.
In the last few weeks, a large amount of ugly, malicious information has been released into the media about me.
Finally, Michael reacted like a grown man facing serious criminal charges and released this statement on his website in January 2005.
The information is disgusting and false. Years ago, I allowed this family into my home because they told me their son was ill with cancer and needed my help. Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen.
Except Michael isn't like every other American citizen. His case quickly turned into a public sideshow commonly known as the trial of the century.
I think people are fascinated with just watching this literal circus take place. It's the ultimate reality show.
Jackson's laundry list of potential witnesses only made things more bizarre.
Michael Jackson's defense team released a list of possible witnesses: Larry King, Kobe Bryant, Corey Feldman, Macaulay Culkin, Elizabeth Taylor. It's been dubbed the Jackson 500. There are actually 366 people on it.
Here we go! On March the 10th, 2005, Jackson was nowhere to be found. Apparently, he was at the hospital for back pain.
The judge basically says, get your ass to court, you're going to jail right now.
Mike must have got this message because within an hour, his ass reported in court. But then what does Michael do? Comes to court in his pajamas.
Like, if your freedom was on the line, you're going to show up in a nice suit, you're going to show up on time.
I think the whole pajamas incident was really just showing that this is a man who is completely devastated by the fact that his image is being ruined, but at the same time will stop at nothing to cause another media stir.
Whether he acts like this on purpose or just because he doesn't know any better, one thing is certain: Michael Jackson's had a long run as the king of shock. And there's no end in sight.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Town, this Motown with your sound, you in the blink, gon' bite the dust, can't fight with us. With your sound, you kill the ink, so don't stop, get it, until you chat it.